MacGybo.
Hi, I'm MacGybo, and today I'm doing something which I haven't done for a long time, which is to gank in Jita, to sit on a gate where things come in and try and kill them. Or kill them as they leave, if they're a small ship and if it's high value cargo. Slightly different how I'm going to do it now, in that there are going to be a lot more pilots who are blue to me, because I've joined an alliance, joined a corp who are part of an alliance, and when you become part of a corp or an alliance, you inherit all of the standings that have been set by them. And what that means is I have a lot more blues, friendlies that I am not to kill than I did when I just had my own corp. So what I was going to do today was just have a chat about what I've been doing over the last 6 months or so, and have a little visit for old time's sake to the Jita gate, which might be a little bit more hazardous, because not only do I have different settings and standings now that I'm part of an alliance, but we're also at war, so people can legitimately, legally shoot me without Concord intervention if they're at war with me and my alliance. And also, I've got kill rights, which people can buy on me as well. So I'm not going to get too emotionally attached to this Thrasher, because it's not long for this world. But then, that goes for all Thrashers when you're ganking. Last thing a ganker wants to do in a ship is redock. So here we go, the last 6 months. Apart from my first year or two in EVE back in 2007, life in New Eden has been primarily in high and low security space. I wasn't even really aware of the politics of the big alliances. I knew of Bob, the Goons, Northern Coalition, Pandemic Horde, etc. But it was just the names. It wasn't part of my game, and it wasn't on my radar. Recently, however, I started to want to get something more from the game. A combination of being in a low-sec PvP-centric corp and high-sec gate ganking was fun, but it had a bit of a stilted narrative. There was no story. You logged on, you had fun, you logged off. There was nothing to aim towards, there was no progress, and without a target, motivation can always be an issue. So late last year, I decided, with my nullsec curiosity, to spend a little time in Syndicate, which is NPC nullsec space. That means that player corps can't claim sovereignty, and that there are NPC stations throughout the whole region which anyone can dock in. I got in touch with EVE University and asked if we could set each other blue for a period, and they kindly agreed. They welcomed me in. They invited me to join them on roams. They gave me access to their structures, and they were very kind. But NPC space is like nullsec light. What I mean by that is that they have more intense anomalies than low-sec and high-sec space, and they have the same rules as nullsec, with no concord and bubbles and wobbles and no sec status hits, etc. But it's definitely not the same as true null. And after a couple of weeks, I headed back to Jita with a little more experience, but not much more direction. what I wanted to do. So then I tried filamenting into areas of null for one-on-one fights and ESS intrusions. Now, ESS has structures in nullsec space which hold ISK gained from local ratting. You can intrude into it, link up to it, and steal the ISK, but local players are alerted to your presence and they can chase you down. And it was interesting to compare how different areas responded. And it was a new style of gameplay, but it still didn't give me the new chapter in MacGybo's story that I was looking for. It was around this time that I started to read Andrew Groen's Empire of EVE, which was about the dominating corps and alliances in the first few years of EVE Online. It's an incredible book for a fan of EVE. For the first time I realised what I was missing during my formative years of being a pilot. The tales of the shifting sands, the empire building, the immense battles, the innovative ways that pilots pushed the limits of the game mechanics, and the ability of players to create amazing stories and experiences were inspiring. My thoughts were already heading in the direction of nullsec activity. I was restless and looking forward to be part of something bigger, and this book captured those thoughts and propelled them on. I knew that I wanted to commit to nullsec and do something in EVE which actually had consequences. But where to go? What to do next? There's a name that had been in my mind for a nullsec alliance for a while, called Brave Alliance. I remember rather casually dismissing a Brave CSM candidate a few years earlier, purely because they represented a nullsec alliance, but their response and their campaign impressed me, despite my ignorant prejudices. And that stayed with me. Over the years, they'd seeped into my subconscious as a classy alliance, both willing to take a fight and welcoming to new folk. Started to look into making an application. When I decided to take the plunge, I was rather shocked. When you link up your EVE account, you give them permission to read your mail for every account that you own. This concerned me. In the past, I'd received many messages in confidence from pilots about videos that I made about the bots in Jita. The messages were about scripts being used and evidence shared, and obviously this I was not prepared to share. So this presented me with a dilemma. A bit of rooting around showed me that what Brave were requesting here was pretty much the norm for permissions for an alliance. I figured out that wherever I went, I was going to need to tackle this head on. So I exported all of my messages, all of my mail, and deleted it from EVE. It wasn't that I had info which was to be uniquely hidden from Brave Alliance, it just wasn't for anyone else's eyes. Once that was all removed, I submitted my application, and then things started to move quickly. The resources online for pilots thinking of applying for Brave is impressive. Good advice and guidance on everything from how to get there to how to set up all the tech required, but beyond that, I don't want to give away any of their secrets. Let's just say that applying for Brave, being accepted, was pain-free experience. So I joined just over 2 months ago, and I've moved out. I've taken through far too much in ISK value of ships, but what I've found myself doing is actually playing EVE, flying in organised ops and defensive fleets, and running anomalies. I've even been doing some industry and moon mining, and would you believe that if you look here, MacGybo actually has a positive sex status, although sitting on this gate isn't going to do much to help that. So if you have sent me messages in the past, just be aware now that because I'm part of Brave Alliance, that any of the info that you were sending through about scripts and what have you, about bots, firstly, the days of me making videos about bots is over. That chapter is finished. That door is closed. Everything that I think I needed to say about it has been said, and it's all out there. And what I don't want to do is do any videos where I risk naming individuals, because when I've done that in the past, some people have took it upon themselves to be abusive to these pilots, which doesn't fit in with my plan at all. I wasn't making these videos for people to threaten these pilots, but that happened, and I got my knuckles rapped for that. So another reason why I need to leave that all alone. So that's what I've been doing over the last 6 months. Me being in Jita in HiSec is a bit of a novelty now, after being in Quirius, although I have been enjoying still taking visits to Hoshven and using Hoshven and then filaments to get to Jita and back, and I've managed to do that 4 jumps each way, even though going safely would be over 50 jumps. It's quite a thrilling thing to do, especially if you've got cargo that's worth something. The biggest difference, I suppose, has been that being part of an alliance has involved me being on comms, which isn't something that I've done for such a long time. And you do bond with court mates and alliance mates differently when you're actually talking to them, when you can hear them. And just because you're on comms doesn't mean you have to speak. It does mean that you need to listen to quick instructions if there's an FC there and you're part of a fleet. This isn't to say that I have not been keeping up with what's going on in Jita and ganking. I can see a few strange things have happened. Just last week, there seems to have been the same pilot has lost several jump freighters, each worth tens of billions, within a very short period of time. I do want to share with you a story that I was told, which I then witnessed myself. Unlike my previous stories, I'm going to keep the names out of this one. So this relates to another ganker who is the one that's telling me this story. And he sends me links to some kill mails, some kills that he's made. And these kills are all almost identical. In each case, an untanked Iteron undocks from Jita with 5 expanded cargo hold, which anyone should be able to tell you now, makes your ship very, very thin and easy to pop. Cargo hold expansion rigs as well, and the cargo every single time are 3 Gila. Every time. He gets a couple actually where there's only 2 Gila. But from January 2023 till September 2023, this pilot gets shot 8 times, and each time has multiple Gila on board. Six of the kills are from the ganker who's telling me this story. So he's finding it quite unusual. I mean, it's one thing for a pilot to be ganked multiple times, but with exactly the same cargo has caught his interest. So he sees this pilot coming out one time with the iter on, and he doesn't shoot him. He just watches to see where he goes and what he does. The pilot flies off, but he doesn't leave Jita. He flies to a safe spot and then flies back in just his pod. So at first the gank is thinking, right, someone else has killed him. But he keeps doing this, flying off with the iter on, coming back in his pod. So the gank is really curious by now. And he gets out a prober. And he waits till this pilot comes out again in his iter on. And then probes him down. And he watches what goes on. The pilot flies out to the spot, which is now bookmarked, with the iter on. He ejects from it. And then there's another pilot there who's in a pod, who then boards that iter on and goes back and docks in Jita. So the ship with the Gila has left Jita 4-4 and then come back to Jita 4-4, but with a different pilot. You have to think about what's going on here. What's the point of this? Who's gaining from this little ritual? It would appear that it's an attempt to swap ships from one character to another without it being done through the trade system or the contract system or anything like that. I guess their thinking is that if you eject from a ship with cargo in it and then board a ship, that CCP won't be able to trace that that ship and that cargo came from a different pilot, the same way they would if you traded it or contracted it or bought it. So my ganker friend takes me out, shows me where the bookmarks are, and it doesn't take too long before I witness this for myself. I also see them using a different bookmark, but I capture and follow everything on the direction scanner. I can see the first pilot arriving in the ship and then leaving in their pod and vice versa. Now, while this is interesting enough and like a little small scale operation, but then my friend sends me through a bunch of other kill mails, and I can see that this isn't just one pilot that's getting ganked with these ships. There are multiple pilots who are undocking with exactly the same fits, and 3 Gilas, 2 Gilas, nothing else on board, and then undocking and then coming back in their pods. It's happening time and time again. So much so that after a while, most of the tornado gankers that operate on Jita 4-4 have got a kill of one of these pilots with 2 or 3 Gilas on board. But so what? There's this mini industry of pilots with badly fitted cargo ships who are making Gilas and losing them. Not any other kind of ship. It's not happening to any other kind of ship. It's always the Gila. But then my friend comes back to me and says that he thinks he's got the missing piece of a jigsaw. He said he had a friend who was willing to speak to me, who had seen... Now, this is the bit I'm not sure of, but it's either a person, a service, or a website, or something on Discord, where it's like cash for Plex, RMT, and what you're buying is just some token thing like a pen, and what you get in return is 3 Gila, which is worth, you round it up a little bit, you're talking 1 billion. So this is it. You buy something and in return you get something which is meaningless plus 3 Gila. So there's this, on the one hand, this RMT scam where you buy something and get the 3 Jita, and on the other hand, these pilots undocking with 3 Jita on board, swapping the ships in midair in space with other pilots, and then redocking, where it would seem that the only benefit is to try and lose a trail of who it is that's got this particular ship. So I wonder if your conclusion would be the same as mine. So I guess my first question would be, does this ring any bells with you? Have you heard about anyone talking about RMT with Jitas being involved? Are you a ganker who's shot someone with 3 Jitas in an expanded Iteron? Have you seen anyone in Jita or noticed them undocking and then ejecting from a ship and then someone else boarding it? Because I still feel like there's some missing parts to this little interesting puzzle, and I'd love to get to the bottom of it. But let's keep pilot names out of this. So I'm singing all these praises about nullsec while hanging around on a high sec gate, which is utterly hypocritical of me. I understand that. I'm still learning about what information I should and shouldn't share when I'm in Brave Alliance, because my screen looks very different when I'm active in Brave. If you're in nullsec or you're in an alliance even, you're going to know what I'm talking about. You're going to have your local chat window, you're going to have local intel windows, you're going to have standard corp and alliance chats, you're going to have fleet chats, and every single one of those boxes is intel. And if I was to share that or stream with that, that would be giving away a lot of stuff. So obviously my day-to-day Brave Alliance, Brave Corp, Brave Newbies life isn't really at the moment right for streaming or making videos. I also had an issue where I had a hard drive corrupt that had all of my Eve videos on it. Now the stuff that's already online, that's fine, but I had a bunch of stuff which wasn't, and also a lot of the artwork and the assets and the templates, they were all lost as well. So the idea of restarting from scratch all of those things, that took a while for me to get the energy, to motivation to get up and do that again. And what I will just say is family health issues and leave it at that as well. I've never been more than a couple of steps away from Eve in the last 6 months. And I've brought myself back up to speed with Eve Equinox, which is the update, first expansion, major expansion of 2024, which will be happening very, very soon. Might even have happened by the time you watch this. May even have happened by the time I get a kill on this gate. I don't really miss the ganking so much. You still get a thrill from a kill, but it's different. And I think it's different because you're part of a team, fleet, a gang, a group, a corp, and it's a shared victory when something happens, whether it be an op or a ship kill. Or it's bigger because of that, and there's money to be made as well. Although I'm still figuring that out. I'm doing solo combat anomalies in Avaga, which, I mean, it brings in ISK, and it's kind of double ISK because of the ESS, which I never understood before I went out there, that you do an anomaly and then that money goes into this shared pot, which is the ESS, and then soon afterwards you get a share of that back. And the other thing that I didn't know about ESSs quite as much, even though I'd done some ESS stealing, was how big a part an ESS in space that plays in PvP when people warp to an ESS. It's like the old station games. It's like there's a specific set of mechanics there. Like you can warp to an ESS grid at range, but once you're there, you can't warp to a pilot there. And then you can only get into the ESS if you've got a cruiser bigger than that. You can't get in a destroyer or frigate-sized ship. The other thing is I've even felt confident enough to go out with interdictors a couple of times and learnt the wonderful word wobble, which is like bubble but for webs. And it's taken me this long in EVE Online to know that wobble was a thing, and that would never have happened. I'd still be ignorant of it if I hadn't given nullsec. So if you don't have the word wobble in your day-to-day vocabulary, then you're missing out. I've even been doing planetary industry. I won't share that. If the other gankers find out, they'll tease me. The last thing that I want to do today is something I've held back on, but yeah, why not? Everyone else has. It's the 1 million free skill point bonus that you can get in EVE Online for your character just by linking up to another character as a referral link. So what that means is if you haven't already done this and linked up to a referral character, then you can do it in a link which I will post in the comments in the description below. And if you follow that link, put in your details, you will get 1 million free skill points on your character. Now this only works once. If you've done it with someone else, another character on your account, and linked it up to them, you won't get another 1 million free skill points. But if you haven't, and you're looking for someone to benefit from this, then follow that link. You will very quickly get your 1 million free skill points, and what I get out of it is if at any point in the future you either buy Plex or subscribe to Omega Time, then I get like extra wee bonuses, like there are skins that you get, maybe blueprints, things like that. So I have held off on doing that because it did seem like everyone's doing it, and then I thought, well, why not? Everyone else is doing it. So if you'd like to support me, that's how you can do it and get 1 million free skill points for yourself. If you've already done that and you'd like to support me, just send me some ISK. I'm not fussy. And I think I'll leave it at that, other than to say that something that I've found quite amusing is people who comment on videos of mine that are a couple of years old, asking me why do you still wear that mask? Why do you wear that mask, man? I haven't worn the mask for quite a while now, but there's videos out there that explain why I did it and why I kept it on and why I chose to eventually take it off. But if you are going to leave a comment on a video asking me something, make sure it's not a video that's well out of date, because the chances are I've probably already answered that question in a subsequent video. And I'm not in the video today. The camera's well off because I am not feeling that great, and you really do not want to see this face on your screen right now. So let's leave it at that. MacGybo's ganking, which means everybody's safe. So thanks for watching. I'm MacGybo, and I'll see you again next time.